Thank you for tuning in to TalkWad.com, the world's fastest growing internet radio network. Please check out all the other great shows on www.talkwad.com. Welcome to Think Up, Unlimited Possibilities. This show is designed to uplift you as well as explore the cohesive nature of the universe in order to discover the unlimited possibilities available through converging and expanding consciousness. And here's your host, Patricia V. Scott.
Welcome to Think Up, Unlimited Possibilities. This is the fourth show already. Wow, we're just plowing right along here, aren't we? And, I just have to blow my own horn a little bit here. I heard today that this show was number one on the Empowerment Network on TalkWad Radio. Yeah. So tune in, tune up, think up, all that good stuff. I'm not sure what that meant, but I was happy. It made me excited. So there you go. And let's see. If this is your first time listening, we are talkwad.com is where you get this station. This show is under the empowerment area because that's what this is all about. And it is evolving to be more and better and more wonderful than I even anticipated, which, of course, was my goal all along. And I'm hopefully manifesting that. I feel like I'm cutting out here a little bit. Am I doing okay here? Sounds like my voice is cutting out. Well, we'll fix that as we go along if we have to. Anyway, if you would care to call in, this show is on Thursday evenings, 7:30 to 8:30. It's live. You can call in at 727-493-2055, and I will be happy to take your calls. Otherwise, I will sit here and do what I love to do the most, and that is talk. Actually, I love to sing, too, but I won't be doing that during this show. At least I don't anticipate it. And anything using my voice seems to be one of the main themes of my life. And as we go along, you'll hear about some of those things. For now, it's mostly talking. And I am a certified hypnotherapist. I am certified in medical, anesthesia, immune system hypnotherapy, and a whole lot of others that would take the rest of the hour to tell you. So I won't go into that. And yet, each show I'm going to be focused on hopefully something a little bit different. We've gone through, last week, I think we talked a lot about the placebo effect. You can go into the archives and listen to any show. I am a certified master trainer for the International Association of Counselors and Therapists, and therefore, if you would like to get continuing education without having to read a book, because it's much more fun to listen to a radio show, I would think, you can listen to this show and you will get continuing education credits. You can contact me for that through my website at uphypnosis.com. Or you can email me at info@uphypnosis.com, and I will be more than happy to tell you how you can get continuing education by listening to this show. Isn't that wonderful? And we've talked about the placebo effect. One of the shows, I believe it was the second show, was about the common misconceptions about hypnosis, because even though it has been around as long as mind has been around, as man has had a mind and worked at learning how to use it, it still has that little sometimes misconception attached, that little stigma about the word hypnosis. And while I'm thinking of it, as my brain is on kind of a flow here, last night we did a masterclass at the Up Hypnosis Institute, and a wonderful friend of mine who we just booked on this show, she's going to be my guest. Her name is Tamara Fontenot. What an amazing person. I actually met her through a meetup that I started, and then she's been coming around a lot, and I just love her. She's a licensed mental health counselor who now is utilizing hypnosis primarily, and NLP, which of course is neuro-linguistic programming, an offshoot of hypnosis. And she is going to be on the show. I believe it's the third Thursday in February. I will be talking more about that because I'm excited to have her. And she was there last night, amazing everyone, as she always does. And she's one of those people that is so enthusiastic about life and about all of these wonderful processes that are designed to help us learn how to use that amazing gift called the mind. I call it the unlimited mind because every day, every hour, practically every second, I am reminded that we limit ourselves with thoughts, with beliefs, perhaps, with adopted expectations and things like that. And as soon as you wipe away all that and kind of get out of the way, which is what I think of these processes as doing, is helping us to get out of our own way, all of a sudden we start to access that unlimited mind that really does just seem to come through in amazing and miraculous ways. So we all have it. We might as well learn how to use it while we are here. I always say if I wake up and my eyes open, there must be more to do, more to learn, more to experience, and it just keeps getting better. It really does. So we've gone through a lot of things. Today, oh, and by the way, Tamara, when she's on, is going to be speaking about mindfulness. That is kind of from the psychologist's mental health professional standpoint. This is a term that they're starting to use for what I call hypnosis, and yet it's pretty cool because mindfulness is a really nice set of tools surrounding that term that mental health professionals are beginning to use to teach their clients what, like I said, in my world I would call hypnosis, and yet it's a really nice little takeoff on all of these concepts. Today I'm going to be talking. Let's see here. I always go the wrong way because it's backwards on my screen here. On a little book that this book probably is third or fourth or fifth generation of this book. It's very yellow because it came from one of my former clients found it at a garage sale. It's a smaller version of what I had years ago and got lost along the way, or maybe I gave it to someone and then got it again and lost that one somehow through the years. But I've looked at this book and referred to it for so many years, back before I knew I was going to be a hypnotherapist. And it's called Getting Well Again. This is based on the Simonton studies. A lot of you have heard. Ooh, my voice just got much richer. I like that. So Getting Well Again was based on studies from the 1970s. Dr. Simonton, Carl Simonton, MD, Stephanie Simonton, and James Creighton, I think it is. Something like it. Anyway, the Simonton study, it's known as. And back in the 70s, they did a lot of studies on using the power of the mind and mental imagery and that kind of thing for cancer and catastrophic illness and that kind of thing. So I'm going to be talking a little bit tonight about that. This will definitely be one of the shows that you can go ahead and listen to. And if you need continuing education units, you can use this as some reference material and write a paper and get some credit for that. And definitely for the classes that I teach. I also teach hypnosis certification. We have our next one. We do twice a year, 6-weekend certification trainings. The next one is coming up on March, March 8th, I think it is. First weekend in March. Somewhere in there. Yeah, March 8th through 10th is the first weekend, and then it continues for 5 weekends, not consecutive, but it finishes up, I think, the first weekend in May. We do twice a year certifications through the International Association of Counselors and Therapists, and we have enough hours included in that you can join just about any other major hypnosis organization you would care to join. It is not approved. It is not for licensed mental health counselors, although a lot of them come to my training. Tamara was one of them. And a lot of people show up, doctors, nurses. I can give nurses continuing education for that first weekend so they can get 20 CEUs or CNEs or whatever they call what they get, 20 units of credit for that first basic hypnosis weekend, which is also a standalone training. If they don't want to go on to get certified, they can do that. And it's probably a lot more fun, a lot more interesting and unusual and fascinating and all that and fun compared to some of the things that I'm sure nurses go through to get their continuing ed units. So you can go on the website uphypnosis.com to find out more about that training. And tonight, again, I'm going to be talking about the Simonton studies. And Getting Well Again is the book. It's the Simonton's Self-Awareness Techniques. Last night, our masterclass was on self-awareness. And this just popped up today, and I said, wow, I forgot that was even a part of what their studies were called. And as I go through some of this may be a 2-show series here, because I'm not sure I'm going to get through all of what I want to cover. And I do tend to move off on things as I get ideas in my head about how to expand on something. Give myself permission to do that, which is why it's my show. And so anyway, this is fascinating to me. When I first started hypnosis, I had been studying it for many, many years, and probably most of my adult life, based on some health issues that I had that I found out I was able to cure myself with the power of the mind, not really knowing exactly how or what I was doing. And yet that led me on the journey that brought me many years later, about 20 years later, to uh, being a hypnotherapist. That was not initially what I thought it was leading to. And yet, as the years went on and I kept studying more things, and each thing would show up as I needed the next piece of the puzzle, so to speak. And little by little, I just kept being drawn in the direction of the hypnosis, the NLP, the mind-body therapies. And that is kind of how I ended up here. When I first started, I was just planning to do this for myself. I didn't think it was going to be a career. And then I ended up in the room with some amazing people who were doing medical hypnotherapy, and I kind of got hooked on that early on. So for the last 21 years, this is my 21st year in practice of being a hypnotherapist. I pretty much specialize in the medical side of hypnosis, the mind body. And basically, I believe that anything I work with, if I'm working with weight loss or smoking or anything else, it's still mind body. And then I actually, if you notice my sign back here, it says, when the mind and body work together, the possibilities are limitless. I had this banner at a health fair one time, and a gentleman walked up with the collar and walked up to me and said, you're missing something there. And I looked at him. He was a man of the cloth, as we say. And I knew where he was going with it already. And he says, yes, what about the spirit or the soul, whatever he said. And I said, oh, well, you know what? From my frame of reference, when the mind and body do work together efficiently, it opens the channel to whatever you call that other realm, that other abstract realm. And there are many names and words and terms and labels for that. And if you've listened to any of these shows yet, you already know I'm not a label person. At least I don't think of myself as one. So whatever labels, however your frame of reference is for that other realm beyond the mind and body, although I think of the mind as being that realm. Where is the mind? If you die and they do an autopsy and they dissect your brain and your body, they can't find your mind. They know it's there. They know it's using the body and using the brain and using the immune system and all these things, but they can't seem to find it. Where is it located? And they can even detect signals outside of your skin, the pain signal. I think I talked about that in one of the previous shows, that they can detect a pain signal with instruments now. So if you have an instrument for it, that proves it's true, see. So, they can detect that signal outside of your skin even before the brain registers the pain. Before you even know that you feel the pain, it is registering in your energy field beyond your skin. So where do we really end? We are just energy, aren't we? So anyway, tonight I'm going to be going through this, and I'll pause from time to time to interject my thoughts, my ideas, but I really want to make this useful. It talks a lot about cancer, because the Simontons, when they did these studies, they were based mostly on people with cancer that have been diagnosed that way. And yet, like I said, I'm not a label person. So, there have been many people who were diagnosed with something and then they died and found out that they were misdiagnosed, and what happened based on their expectations and their beliefs surrounding their illness ended up being completely wrong, completely inaccurate. And there are multiple studies on that. So I'm not hooked on that word. This is mostly about people who do develop some kind of a physical manifestation of something. And the same principles apply, whether you're talking about a physical detectable illness, something that we can actually measure or detect, or if you're talking about an emotional, it's all tied together. You cannot separate the physical from the mental, from the emotional, from all that. So to me, it's irrelevant what words you put. And yet these studies are pretty amazing for people who like to have some real hard facts and data based on pure research, medical research. And since these were doctors, of course, it has much more credibility. So there you go. The Simontons... There's some of the health professionals who studied the direct relationship between cancer and a certain type of personality. what similar components and psychological characteristics do they find in the life history of their cancer patients is what this is going to be all about. The Simontons observed that most people who develop cancer had problems in their lives that were aggravated or compounded by a series of stresses within approximately 18 months prior to the onset of their illness. Now, this is pretty widely known now in the medical community. And yet when I read this back in the 70s, in the maybe early 80s it was, I remembered thinking, wow. And I started thinking back on people I knew that had developed illnesses. And it seemed even to be true just in basic experiential ways without knowing that. The people that had developed these illnesses, the diseases, approximately 18 months after a major stress, they generally shared deep feelings of hopelessness, not surprisingly. The key element in the person's inability is the person's inability to adapt to or deal with the various stresses, both positive and negative, that they have in their lives. This inability to cope with the necessary changes in life situations leads to a suppression of the immune system. Now, it might surprise some people who are listening when you say positive stresses, because there is something called eustress. EU stress is what it's termed, that's been studied, that is stressful to the person based on positive experiences like getting married, buying a new house, having a child, winning something. There's that excitement and the different chemicals that are released in the body and hormones based on positive stresses can actually cause some situations as well, if not appropriately dealt with. So there's negative stress, and then there's positive stress called eustress, that all have an effect on the organism. The Simontons, they stated that general negative or gloomy outlook on life was detected in these people. It was found to be common in people who develop cancer. And they're talking before the development of cancer. That tended to be a general outlook. Now, that's obviously not true for everyone. And yet some people that can appear very upbeat and positive on the outside also may be suppressing certain things on the inside. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. They state that the general negative or gloomy outlook was common. The major difference that I noticed with people is how they approach their disease and their treatment, by the way, and in their apparent ability to cope with and or recover from their diseases. Depressed or neurotic individuals also have been known to be more susceptible to cancer. Many cancer patients seem to identify themselves narrowly by a particular role or object, and many tend to put others' needs ahead of their own. Now, this brings me to the idea of caregivers. Caregivers tend to, pride themselves in putting other people's needs and desires and wants ahead of their own. I think I mentioned during my first show, we had just finished doing our annual hospice fundraiser. So we had a lot of caregivers in the room, and I donated some sessions for these people because they do tend to put others' needs ahead of their own. And yet, in order to take care of someone else, you have to take care of yourself first. And it's not about being selfish in a negative way. It's about realizing that when you're at your best, you have more to offer someone else. You are stronger. You're more able to deal with whatever challenges someone else that you're wanting to help may be dealing with. So a lot of people, another thing that seems to be common in people who develop cancer is they tend to keep their feelings of desperation and despair bottled up inside. That's what I started to talk about earlier, appearing to those around them to be fully functional and in control. Now, many patients have feelings of neglect, isolation in their youth, and sometimes they lacked close relationships, especially with their parents. Now, again, these are generalizations, based on studies, and there's always exceptions to everything. And yet these do seem to be some general common things that appear to be pretty common to people who develop cancer. They formulated, the Simontons formulated the following mind-body model for cancer. So, and I've been doing hypnosis as a practice I'm in my 21st year, and many years ago, I came to a realization that whatever I'm working with someone on, it's a challenge in their life, whether it's a physical challenge, a behavioral challenge, a health challenge, relationship challenge, financial challenge, it doesn't seem to matter. That if they are struggling with something that would truly enhance and make their life better, that they tend to be unable to deal with the stresses. There's some kind of a stress involved that is weakening them. And when I talk about this model for cancer, it's gonna relate to that. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But the psychological stress seems to be the very initial thing. That's the seed. That's the beginning of this development of this disease. And you could actually, like I said, you could transpose a different condition or disease depending on what the weakness in the person is. It's going to, hit them in that area anyway. But we're talking about cancer tonight. But you can interject just about anything else in that area. Psychological stress starts it. Then it leads to despair or depression. And again, this is the Simonton model that's from the book Getting Well Again. And then that affects the limbic system. Then the limbic system affects the hypothalamic activity, the hypothalamus. And then that takes off and affects the pituitary activity and also the immune system, the anti-cancer neurochemicals, that kind of thing. The pituitary activity then affects the endocrine system. It creates hormonal imbalance. And that also then affects the immune system. Now, the endocrine system, the hormonal imbalance, then increases it increases the abnormal cells, thus leads to cancer growth. The endocrine system also, like I said, leads to a weakened immune system, suppressing that immune activity, and once again leading to cancer growth. Now, each show I say I'm going to be offering a something free, this little chart and some of these ideas on the development of how stress can lead to catastrophic illness. I have a paper on this that if you email me at uphypnosis.com, info@uphypnosis.com, I will send you a PDF of that. And if you're listening to the archived version of this, if you're not listening live tonight on Thursday, January 31st, 2013 is where we are right now. And if you listen to this later and email me, I will still send you the PDF because I love to give things away. And this is a paper that I wrote anyway, so I have the rights to that. Now, psychological stress usually consists of a cluster of stresses occurring 6 to 18 months prior to the onset of the illness, like we talked about earlier. The effect of these stresses is enhanced if the individual's identity has been threatened in some way. And just like the chart that I was just reading, it leads to despair or depression resulting from an inability to cope with stresses in an effective way. And once again, every challenge that someone comes to me with that wants hypnotherapy, NLP, the types of techniques I use, I learned years ago that take all the labels off, take the diagnoses off, all of that. Just I kind of imagine them leaving that at the door, and they sit in the chair, and I look at them. Where are they right now? What are the stresses? That is the beginning point. That is what is sending something in a direction that is less than efficient or healthy. So they're unable to deal with the stress, which leads to despair and depression. That comes from just feeling out of control, not feeling that you have control over something leads to those kinds of emotions. And then that, again, affects the limbic system, which is responsible for the fight or flight reaction. It records all sensations and feelings associated with the stresses experienced. So that keeps your body in that constant state of fight or flight. And yet, in many cases, in most cases, possibly in all cases, I'm not sure, the source of the fight or flight response, the source of the thoughts that are being created are many times based on imagining something that might happen or that could happen, those what ifs of the negative scenario that people play out in their imagination. That's what creates the fight or flight response. Regardless whether it's real or imagined, it's the same response in the physical body. So those mechanisms are set into place. Then the hypothalamic activity, hypothalamus, yeah, that's part of the brain. That activity, it processes messages from the limbic system by controlling immune system and pituitary gland activity. And this in turn regulates the hormonal functions of the endocrine system. The immune system then is weakened by the stress and becomes more susceptible to cancer development. This is all fine and good for study, for research, for someone who needs all these details. And if you're in the medical profession, of course, you know much more about all of these systems and parts of the body. Bottom line is you get stressed, you aren't dealing with it efficiently, your immune system gets weaker, you are susceptible to anything that's going on, whether it's pollen in the air, or whether it's, a bug bite or a virus in your vicinity that you're exposed to, or if it's the cancer cells that are in everybody's body. We all have them. So if the stresses are being dealt with efficiently, the body then is responding and taking care of these things in the way that we were designed to, then everything's working harmoniously, and those cells are processed out of the body efficiently, and there's no expression of those cells, which is the way it's meant to be. It's the way we're designed. So to me, again, bottom line, to oversimplify, because sometimes simpler is the best answer. What is that? Occam's razor, right? The most obvious and simple answer sometimes really is the answer. And I do believe that if you deal with the stresses efficiently in your life, the positive and the negative ones, if you're dealing with them from a place of strength, of power, of resourcefulness, then these things are going to be processed through the body the way they're meant to. So back to this. Okay, so pituitary activity, endocrine system responds to stress signals, changing the hormonal balance in the body. This imbalance in adrenal hormones causes a greater susceptibility to carcinogenic substances, increase in abnormal cells, then resulting from hormonal imbalance and weakened immune response, and then you have cancerous growth. The end result of the sequence of physiological changes. It's a natural, normal process, and there's also a natural, normal process that can take it in the direction toward health. Now, part 2 of this book that I'm referring to tonight, again, I'm getting tangled up here. Again, it is the Getting Well Again book that is, I'm sure it's still available out there. This is a much smaller pocket kind of version of the original one that I read many years ago. And it's based on the Simonton studies. And in part 2 of this book, it's called Pathways to Health. The authors of this book present the whole course of their therapy that they used for these people that were having these miraculous cures from their cancer. They present a summary in different chapters about the different steps that a cancer patient might take in order to gain his or her life and health. So in that part of the book called Pathways to Health, they talk about participating in your health. The first step involves the identification of the major stresses the patient experienced 6 to 18 months prior to diagnosis, as we talked about, and it's done to determine what behaviors may have contributed to their vulnerability to disease. Now, the object of this initial step is to help the patient to find more effective ways of coping with these stresses and to free up the energy they will need for fighting their disease. And I love that, just that whole sentence. I'm going to repeat that. The object of this initial step is to help the patient to find more efficient ways of coping with these stresses and to free up the energy they will need in fighting their disease. Free up that energy. If all of the energy is being used with struggling with the stresses and all of those chemicals in the body and that kind of thing, then it leaves less energy and resources available for now I could have a whole nother show on fighting the disease, because personally I think that is a way that we have developed in our culture and in in our mindset about disease that is less than helpful. With NLP, we talk about every behavior has a positive intention. And there's some things like that where you look at something more purely in that it's working, it's functioning perfectly based on what has been happening. The disease is there because something is working the way it was designed to work. And now it's like, how do we discover what types of thoughts and behaviors and ways of thinking have led to that? And we just reverse it. We reframe it. We change those things and send it in the other direction just as efficiently. And by the way, we are designed to move toward health. So you really have to almost do something or learn something unintentionally or intentionally to send your body in a less than healthy direction. You have to do something. If you leave it alone, it will move toward health. So get a little off on that, but that's my basic understanding of this. And when it says free up the energy, I have a CD that I give to practically every client I worked with for the last 20 plus years. And I even give it to smokers now. I used to have a smoking reinforcement to quit smoking type CD. And within 2 or 3 years of working with smokers, I realized they don't go back to smoking because they want a cigarette. They go back to smoking because they're stressed out and they don't know how to deal with it. So now I give everybody my CD called Recycle Stress into Positive Energy. Again, you got to free up that energy. It's being sent in one direction. You want to kind of capture it, not fight it, for heaven's sake, because negative energy has a lot of power, as we know. If it can create cancer, think of how much power that is. And if you can capture that power and send it in a positive direction, you free it up to be used resourcefully, to be used, and like my CD is called Recycle It, because that was kind of a cool, recycling became popular back in the early 90s when I created that CD. And it's like, let's recycle that energy. Let's capture it and send it in a direction that can actually be serving you rather than sending your health in the wrong direction. Another section in this book that I'm reviewing tonight, Getting Well Again, talks about the benefits of illness. And I have to be very careful and sensitive when I go into this area because most people, if they have an illness, they wouldn't think, well, what's good about this? And yet, if you can kind of take that bias off of it just long enough to hear what I'm saying here and to hear what the Simontons discovered, many times people in the healthcare fields know something called secondary gain. And again, this isn't about putting blame on anything or attacking someone and saying they're doing something intentionally, but just to have an awareness that many times illness serves as an excuse for someone to be able to express their emotions or gain attention in ways that they normally feel unable or unwilling to do. Illness can also be used to provide an escape away from activities or situations that the person wants to avoid without their having to feel guilty. Now, I'm going to bring someone in to this conversation, no names, of course, but a person that I worked with a few years ago when I first got to Florida. And this young woman, I don't remember her age, but she was a reasonably young woman, seemed healthy, seemed pretty physically fit when she came into the office to see me. And I was working with her on a referral for, I believe it was pain management. And I started working with her. Yes, it was pain management. And she, through the course of the sessions, started having some really nice results with lessening her discomfort. And at some point, I remember that she stopped me. And usually I do multiple sessions with these people so I can teach them, tools that they can use on their own. And I remembered her stopping me one day and she's saying, I can't get rid of all my pain. And I asked her why. And she said, well, if I get rid of all my pain, I will lose my disability. She had a whole system set up for several years, if I remember right at that point, that was her support system financially based on her condition. And she knew that if she got rid of the pain completely, she was going to lose that. She also had a support system of people that supported her and members of the family that all had roles in helping her and supporting her in what her disability was. And in her mind, in her belief system, she believed that she needed all of those things. She was not willing to give those up. And it wasn't my job to tell her what she should want to do. So she was perfectly happy being able to monitor and manipulate and lessen the pain to a level where she wasn't as uncomfortable. And she did that quite easily, quite quickly. And yet she was not willing to eliminate it completely. That was her choice. I had to make the decision whether that was okay with me. And it was, because my job is to help someone to achieve their goal as long as it's healthy and improves their life, enhances their life in some way. And obviously her life was enhanced by having less discomfort. And yet she had a need and a want and a desire to keep it to a certain level so that she could continue with the lifestyle that she had gotten so used to. So that's an interesting little side comment on the part about the benefits of illness. And I know there's been times in my life when I had not too long ago, I had a foot injury that came up. I still don't know exactly what caused it, but I had done several things and kind of stressed the foot. And I ended up with this big boot on my foot for, I think it was about 6 weeks I had it on there. And, I knew it wasn't going to be forever. And I had a very positive attitude about it. And yet I sort of milked it a little bit, I found ways to get my husband to go get things for me and do things for me. It was kind of fun. And I even made a little joke out of it, and he was fine about it, being the wonderful, amazing person that he is. And, it served me a little bit there. And, I would limp across the parking lot to go to the UPS store, and people would be overly kind and not try to run over me. So, there could be some little benefits to some of these things. We get a little bit of extra attention or a little bit of extra care, and it can be nice. And if you don't get stuck there and take it to an extreme that lessens your quality of life, I see nothing wrong with that. Use it. So enough about that silliness. One of the other things, learning to relax and visualize recovery. Now, this is the part. Now we're coming to the power of the imagination, the mind, the power of the unlimited mind, as I say. And in Getting Well Again, they talk a lot about, this is really a major part of their therapies that they were doing with these people with cancer, was the visualization. Learning to relax, of course, is a part of hypnosis and the types of techniques that I do. And by learning to relax the mind, the body, and then using visualization. And we'll talk at some point, either tonight or if this does go to this may be 2 different shows, that we'll talk about how they used visualization. It's quite interesting how they use that to help people to eliminate their tumors and things like that, and to recover and create white blood cells and all those things. So the relaxation reduces stress, obviously, and tension, prepares the patient to use mental imagery. So until you're relaxed and quiet the mind a little bit and de-stress, let go of a little bit of tension, it can be more challenging to get that mental imagery going. When I think of like creativity, we might do a whole show on creativity. You can't really be creative when you're stressed. It's like I used to have a saying when I was writing songs back in my old life. I would say you can't create, you can't force creativity. And I found that when, creativity had to just kind of show up. It just kind of had to show up. And it had to be at a time when you weren't trying to force it or work at it. It's a part of the unconscious part of the mind, and it's freer and more open and available to you when you are relaxed. So that's part of it, is that physical relaxation, and then using mental imagery as a tool for self-discovery and healing. So the relaxation obviously increases the healing response, the relaxation response happens when you get relaxed and open up the mind. And then using that imagery really activates parts of the brain and the chemicals that are available to actually go in and increase the immune system and activate the healing properties of the mind to send to different parts of the body, and pain-relieving chemicals and all that kind of thing. And then they talk about the value of positive mental images. The types of images that can enhance healing, and also they use mental imagery to identify any belief that may be inhibiting recovery in some way. Now, this is where I believe hypnosis and these processes really come into play, because if you're working at doing this all with your logical, conscious mind, you're leaving out the most powerful part of your mind that knows at a higher level, all of your history. And it knows if there's some belief that you picked up along the way maybe when you were 2 years old. And if there's something in there that is really a part of the condition or the illness that you have that is interfering with complete recovery or being as healthy as is possible for you to be, then in hypnosis, these things surface. Now, they may surface symbolically and get resolved outside of conscious awareness. I see that quite often. Or they may surface in a way that is presented like on a silver platter to your conscious mind. And when they come out of hypnosis, they'll say, oh my gosh, I just realized something. And it's actually evident to the person. So either way, it's fine with me. It's the end result we're looking for. If conscious awareness is helpful, I've learned through the years, the unconscious will present it in a way that is helpful, that you can learn from it, that you can move on then. Ooh, moving right along here. And if it isn't helpful, then sometimes what I notice is the person will just have an experience, sometimes have some imagery or some symbolic experience that is outside of their ability to really logically understand, and yet they will have a conscious awareness that something is different, that when they think about that now, they feel differently. They have a different emotion about something maybe from the past or just about their condition or their situation that they're working on. So that is to me where the power of doing this work, when you really can get to a deeper level of the mind that knows what it's all about. I always say the expert is in the person sitting in front of me. Their mind knows all about their life, all about their beliefs, all about everything that's ever happened to them, even things they don't remember anymore. And their unconscious mind is where all that's stored. So why would you not want to go to that part of their mind that knows? Why waste time on things that are just guessing what might be wrong, or let's go look for a cause? Causes aren't always useful or helpful. If it is, then the mind will present it. That's something I believe. I have a call. And who is calling? Wonderful.
Hey, Patty, it's Tamara.
It sounds like someone I was speaking about just a few minutes ago. What a surprise.
Oh, good. Well, I've got my radio turned down, so I can hear you pretty well now.
Oh, good. I can hear you real well, too. You're my first phone call.
I know. And so you've got to got to adjust for all of that stuff.
I love
It's
it.
another new thing. Those little things that make us uncomfortable make us grow, don't they?
Oh, I'm never uncomfortable behind a microphone.
Yeah.
You know me better
well,
than
a lot
that.
of people don't like new things and change, but this has been wonderful. I've been listening tonight and
thank you.
taking some notes, and
Well, there you go.
It's wonderful.
So you heard me talking about you earlier from last night's
I did,
class.
and I blushed.
What is the date that you will actually be physically here in the studio with me? Is it February 20 something?
The 21st.
21st.
I believe that's the 21st.
If that's a Thursday, that's probably it. I think it's the third.
That's it. I
Thursday
think it's the
something.
21st. And I'm looking forward to it, and I like I said, I kind of took some notes because from the very beginning you introduced the concept that I probably would talk about, which was mindfulness, and I keep thinking to myself, my gosh, it is so hypnotic.
You bet. You bet. It's all about the mind, isn't it?
It is all about the mind. It truly is. Like I said, your presentation's been really amazing tonight. I've got about 2 pages worth of notes, and
oh well, thank you. And I'm realizing that I probably have at least 3 more shows here because I just got the 10-minute sign, and I'm like, wow, I've got a lot to cover here. Did you hear me say that this show was voted #1 in the category of empowerment on Talk Wad Radio?
Oh, I love it. And I can tell you what, I know some places I would like to promote this. I really
good.
do.
Well, I hope everyone will tell everyone they know. And little by little, I plan to be syndicated at some point and, turn this into a real...
First of all, you have a wonderful radio voice.
Oh, thank
really, you do. But
That's
yeah,
nice.
because as I was listening to what you were saying, I'm like, gosh, everyone needs to hear this. They need to hear this.
There you go. And you know what? The funny thing is people seem to find what they need just when they need it. It's amazing.
Yes, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, because none of this is new, is it?
I'm sorry?
I said, because none of this is new, is it? It's just
No, none of it is new. I mean, this Symington study is an older study, and there's lots of interesting stuff about it. I wanted to share with you. I just had gotten invited to presentation they're doing at the Moffitt Cancer Center, and I'm excited because
Wonderful.
even today I was looking up. I think I had shared with you at the mastermind or the master meeting last night that H.D. Anderson Cancer Center in Houston has now gone very, very public about the use of hypnosis.
There you go. That's right. I remember you saying that last night. Yeah.
They surely have, and I'm going to take some of the material I got from them today, as well as some the testimonial from my dental anesthesia experience a couple of weeks ago, and take all of that with me to Moffitt, and hopefully.
Now you explained to all of us last night. You gave us the rundown on that dental surgery that you supervised as a hypnotic anesthesiologist, and I really want you to talk about that when you come on the show, because that will, I'm sure, blow some people's minds when they hear.
Yeah, well, it blew my mind.
I know. No matter how much you do this, it still seems to be amazing, doesn't it?
Yes, it is truly amazing what can happen. But like I said, I'm just so glad you're getting this message out. People need to hear this.
Sure.
And there were so many things. We said that on the 21st I'd talk about mindfulness, but like you said at the beginning of the program, mindfulness, while it is its own thing, there's a lot of presuppositions that go with mindfulness, just like any particular discipline, but it is hypnosis. It truly is. And a lot of the things that you were saying about it, especially when it comes to health and healing, and
wonderful. And I am running out of time, so I want to, since you do a mindfulness, is it a meetup that you're doing on mindfulness, or is it a class that you have going right now?
No, I do a series of classes to introduce people to mindfulness, but unlike some mental health practitioners, because hypnosis is a word that they're not always comfortable with. They talk about mindfulness, but I understand the connection between the two.
Sure.
And so I teach a mindfulness, and the last couple of sessions are how once you've attained that ability to be in the here and now, to regulate that stress like you were talking about, you might as well go ahead and give yourself some helpful suggestions. I mean, why waste a doorway since you're there?
Yes, my phrase, why waste a good trance?
That's right. That's
right.
That's right.
I think I have a couple minutes left here, so how would they find out about that class? Do you have a website that they could go to?
Surely. It's Tampa Bay Hypnotherapy.com.
Very good.
It's that simple, Tampa Bay Hypnotherapy.com.
And again, this is Tamara Fontenot, and she's a licensed mental health counselor. Is that right? Yeah. That is doing some mindfulness classes, and I'm hoping to encourage you to come to Up Hypnosis Institute to do some of those classes, because I want to be there, and so far I haven't been able to make it over to your other ones. So
I know. Well, I'm hoping here maybe for April, for my April class, because I try to do this once a quarter. Maybe we can do this up in Palm Harbor. That would be amazing.
That would be wonderful. Well, I'm excited for you, and I know that you're going to be here on the 21st, you said, I think it was, of February, with me in studio. So I encourage everyone to let everyone know about that, so that you can hear from the standpoint of a mental health counselor that she's been, gosh, how many years you've been doing that for? A couple of decades,
long time.
2 or 3 decades. Yeah, you don't look old enough, but neither do I, of course. Right? So time moves on, and I'm looking forward to that. So I think I'm getting ready to run out of time here, but I'm so glad you called in, Tamara. I'm excited, and you're my first phone call. So we have a first that no one can ever take away. No one can ever take that away from us now. I love it.
Very good.
And you'll probably be my first.
See you soon.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
you take care. Bye-bye. And Tamara will probably possibly be my first in-studio guest as well. So I think I'm running out of time. I got a minute left. So I'm going to remind you, this is Patricia V. Scott. I probably will never tell you what the V stands for, but let's just say it stands for victory, never victim, because it's much more fun to be victorious and all that. So this is all about thinking up. How do you use your mind? My old friend and mentor, Dr. Preston said, we teach people how to think. Well, you may know how to think, but maybe you can think more efficiently in ways that cause you to be happier, healthier, more productive, more successful, all of those things. So this is Patricia Scott. This is Think Up. And remember, life is filled with unlimited possibilities. And you know what Auntie Mame said? Life's a banquet, and most poor SOBs are starving to death. Pardon the expression. And she usually says it a little more, but I think I can get away with that. So have fun, and I'll see you next week. And we'll talk some more about the Simonton study because I didn't get through with that. And take care.